The massive research vessel Horizon Pathfinder drifted silently above the desolate planet, its carbon composite hull gleaming against the backdrop of a distant binary star system. Elena Rodriguez adjusted the seals on her environmental suit, her fingers moving with the practiced precision of a seasoned xenorchaeologist. The suit's smart fabric rippled slightly, adapting to the fluctuating atmospheric conditions outside. "Preliminary scans are complete," announced Dr. Kai Chen, his holographic display flickering with a constellation of data points. The lead researcher's voice carried a mixture of academic detachment and barely concealed excitement. Around him, the research team prepared for planetary descent, a diverse group representing 3 distinct alien civilizations united by their scientific curiosity. Zara, the Nebulan researcher, moved with a fluid grace that defied her gaseous composition. Her translucent form shimmered inside a specially designed containment suit, tendrils of her being shifting like luminescent smoke. She swept her sensory appendages across the preliminary data, her contempt for human colonization efforts barely concealed. "Another failed human outpost," Zora muttered, her words translated through a complex linguistic matrix that captured both verbal and emotional nuance. "SAM 742 looks like every other abandoned human settlement we've documented." The Cretax research team clicked and chirped in their complex harmonic language. Their insectoid forms were a stark contrast to the humanoid researchers, multiple segmented limbs moving with synchronized precision, compound eyes analyzing every microscopic detail of the incoming data streams. Their collective intelligence processed information at speeds that would overwhelm most biological computing systems. Elena knew better than to take the dismissive comments at face value. She had built her reputation on challenging conventional archaeological wisdom, particularly when it came to human colonial efforts. Something about this site felt different. The architectural remnants suggested a complexity that went beyond simple colonization attempts. The planetary descent began with a smooth, calculated trajectory. Automated systems compensated for gravitational anomalies, guiding the research vessel through layers of atmospheric interference. Outside the viewports, the landscape of SM 742 revealed itself, a vast expanse of structures that seemed caught between decay and potential. Massive architectural forms rose from the planet's surface like forgotten monuments. Structures that should have crumbled centuries ago stood with an unexpected integrity. Rust-colored plains stretched between half-collapsed buildings, their geometric patterns suggesting a level of urban planning that seemed almost organic. "Structural integrity is significantly higher than our initial projections," Dr. Chen commented, his fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. "These buildings should have collapsed decades ago, yet they maintain remarkable stability." The landing sequence initiated with a series of precision thrusters. Electromagnetic stabilizers extended, creating a cushion of energy that would minimize any potential disturbance to the archaeological site. Elena watched the terrain approach, her trained eye catching details that her colleagues seemed to miss. Unusual power conduits traced patterns beneath the surface. Their positioning suggested a level of urban design that went far beyond simple colonial infrastructure. The way these conduits intersected spoke of a deliberate, almost living architectural approach. As the vessel touched down, a slight tremor passed through the ground. Most of the research team attributed it to standard planetary settling, but Elena felt something different. It was more like a pulse, a subtle rhythm that suggested something might be waiting just beneath the surface. Zara's Nebulan sensors began collecting atmospheric and geological data. The insectoid Cretax drones deployed, their multiple sensors sweeping across the landscape in intricate patterns. Holographic reconstructions began to form, attempting to map the abandoned human settlement. "Preliminary classification," Zara announced, her voice dripping with academic superiority, "confirms this as a standard Type 3 human colonial expansion zone. Estimated period of abandonment: approximately 287 standard galactic cycles." Dr. Chen nodded, but Elena noticed a slight hesitation in his movement. He, too, seemed to sense something unusual about this site. As the research team prepared to exit the vessel, Elena double-checked her environmental suit's quantum-encrypted communication systems. Something about SM-742 felt different, a subtle energy that seemed to hum just beneath the perception of her colleagues. Little did they know that the planet was about to prove them spectacularly wrong. The research team's initial exploration moved with calculated precision. Cretax drones buzzed around the exterior of the first major structure, their multispectral scanners probing every microscopic detail of the abandoned human settlement. Elena Rodriguez moved deliberately, her environmental suit's sensors working in concert with her trained archaeological instincts. Dr. Kai Chen set up the primary research station near what appeared to be a central administrative complex. The building stood remarkably intact, its carbon composite walls showing minimal degradation despite centuries of apparent abandonment. Zara hovered nearby, her gaseous form contained within a sophisticated environmental suit, her translucent membranes flickering with disdain. "Structural analysis confirms unprecedented preservation," Dr. Chen muttered, his fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. These materials should have undergone significant molecular breakdown after 287 galactic cycles. Elena carefully approached a partially exposed data terminal. Unlike typical colonial communication systems, this device bore intricate quantum-encrypted interfaces that seemed almost organic in their complexity. She ran her gloved hand along its surface, feeling an inexplicable vibration that didn't match the surrounding environment. The Cretax research team began their systematic documentation. Their collective intelligence worked in perfect synchronization, multiple sensors capturing every microscopic detail. Holographic reconstructions began to form, layering digital representations over the physical site. Zara's dismissive commentary continued. "Typical human over-engineering," she announced to no one in particular. "Excessive complexity masking fundamental structural weaknesses." Dr. Chen raised an eyebrow. "The preservation suggests something more sophisticated," he countered. "These aren't standard colonial infrastructure designs." Elena discovered the first anomaly buried beneath layers of seemingly mundane architectural data. Fragmentary logs hinted at a preservation protocol far beyond standard colonial contingency plans. Each encrypted snippet suggested a level of forward thinking that challenged everything the research team understood about human settlement strategies. The quantum encryption was unlike anything in the team's database. Standard decryption protocols failed repeatedly, each attempt revealing only tantalizing glimpses of something extraordinary. Complex algorithmic patterns suggested a living system, rather than a static archive. "This encryption is adaptive," Elena whispered, more to herself than her colleagues. "It's responding to our scanning attempts." The Cretax drones began to show signs of collective unease. Their synchronized movements became more erratic, compound eyes detecting subtle energy fluctuations that defied standard physical models. Something about the site was pushing against their comprehensive understanding of archaeological research. Dr. Chen transferred the encrypted fragments to the primary research console. The holographic display flickered, struggling to process the complex data streams. Fragments of information danced across the interface, glimpses of architectural plans, energy distribution networks, and what appeared to be deeply complex survival protocols. "These aren't just preservation records," Dr. Chen muttered, his academic composure slipping. "This looks like an active contingency system." Zara's gaseous form compressed in frustration. "Impossible," she retorted. "No colonial system could maintain integrity for nearly 3 centuries without active maintenance." Elena discovered a particularly intriguing data fragment. It referenced something called the Dormant Sea Protocol, a term that didn't exist in any standard synoarchaeological database. The fragment suggested a comprehensive system designed to preserve not just infrastructure, but entire cultural and technological ecosystems. The research team's initial mockery began to give way to genuine scientific curiosity. Each layer of discovery peeled back another level of complexity. The human settlement was proving to be far more than an abandoned colonial outpost. As the day progressed, the subtle vibrations Elena had initially detected began to increase. They were microscopic, almost imperceptible, but definitely present. The ground seemed to pulse with a rhythm that suggested something was waiting, watching. Dr. Chen's most advanced scanning equipment began to show inexplicable readings. Energy signatures fluctuated in patterns that suggested active systems, despite all visual evidence of abandonment. The Cretax drones recalibrated repeatedly, their collective intelligence struggling to make sense of the data. "We're missing something fundamental," Alina said quietly, her eyes fixed on the complex architectural layout. "This isn't a dead settlement. It's hibernating." The research team continued their work, unaware that the planet was slowly, methodically becoming aware of their presence. Beneath the rust-colored plains and seemingly abandoned structures, something ancient and profoundly intelligent was beginning to stir. Little did they know how spectacularly their understanding of human colonization was about to be challenged. The first tremor was so subtle that most of the research team initially dismissed it as a standard planetary settling phenomenon. Elena Rodriguez felt it differently, a rhythmic pulse that seemed to originate deep beneath the rust-colored plains of SM 742, a vibration that spoke of something more than geological activity. Her handheld scanner flickered unexpectedly, its calibration wavering between multiple readings. Quantum-encrypted data streams danced across the display, revealing and then immediately obscuring complex information patterns. The device seemed to be struggling against some unseen interference. "Seismic activity is within normal parameters," announced Dr. Kai Chen, his fingers moving across holographic interfaces. Yet even as he spoke, a hint of uncertainty crept into his professional tone. Zara's nebulan sensory appendages began to react strangely. Her gaseous form compressed and expanded with increasing agitation, translucent membranes rippling with what could only be described as unease. The advanced energy sensors built into her containment suit started to produce readings that defied conventional scientific understanding. The Cretax research team became increasingly animated. Their collective intelligence, typically a model of synchronized precision, began to show signs of collective uncertainty. Compound eyes moved in complex patterns, scanning and rescanning the surrounding environment. Harmonic clicks and chirps increased in frequency and intensity, suggesting a growing collective anxiety. Energy conduits are showing microscopic activation patterns, one of the Cretax researchers translated through their linguistic matrix. Signatures inconsistent with dormant infrastructure. Belina moved closer to a partially exposed power junction. The carbon composite material seemed to shimmer subtly, almost as if responding to her proximity. She ran her gloved hand near the surface, feeling a strange warmth that shouldn't have existed in a supposedly abandoned settlement. Dr. Chen approached, his scientific skepticism barely masking a growing sense of curiosity. "These energy signatures," he muttered, "they're not random. There's a deliberate pattern forming." The ground trembled again, this time more distinctly. Holographic markers placed by the research drones began to shift, recalibrating in response to subtle environmental changes. Dust rose in intricate patterns, forming geometric shapes that seemed almost too precise to be natural. Zara's dismissive attitude began to crack. "This is impossible," she muttered, her translucent form compressing with visible tension. "No colonial system maintains this level of potential energy after centuries of apparent abandonment." Elena's intuition screamed that they were witnessing something unprecedented. The colony wasn't just a ruin, it was breathing. Each microscopic vibration suggested a complex system slowly coming to awareness, like a massive organism emerging from a prolonged hibernation. The Cretax drones began to malfunction. Their synchronized movements became erratic, sensory inputs overwhelmed by the increasingly complex energy signatures surrounding them. Quantum-encrypted data streams began to interfere with their collective communication systems. "We're detecting adaptive resonance," one of the researchers reported. "The infrastructure is responding to our presence in ways that defy current scientific models." Dr. Chen's most advanced scanning equipment started to produce increasingly bizarre readings. Energy patterns emerged that suggested active systems deeply embedded within the planetary infrastructure. It was as if the entire settlement was a living, breathing entity that had been waiting, preparing for something. Elena discovered an unusual data fragment buried within her scanner's encrypted logs, a reference to something called the Adaptive Restoration Protocol, a term that didn't exist in any standard synorchaeological database. The fragment suggested a comprehensive system designed to not just preserve, but to actively reconstruct and adapt. The tremors increased in frequency and intensity. What had started as microscopic vibrations now became measurable seismic events. Yet they didn't follow standard geological models. Each pulse seemed calculated, deliberate, like a heartbeat slowly coming to life. Zara's sensory systems began to overload. "This is beyond our current understanding," she announced, her typically confident voice now tinged with a hint of fear. "The energy patterns suggest active systems that should be impossible for a settlement this old." The research team watched in growing amazement and terror as the landscape around them began to subtly change. Dust settled in patterns too precise to be random. Power conduits that appeared dead for centuries showed microscopic signs of activation. Elena realized they were witnessing something extraordinary. The human colony wasn't just a settlement. It was a complex, adaptive system that had been waiting, preparing, watching. And now it was beginning to wake up. The transformation began without warning. Massive sections of the city erupted in a soft, pulsing blue-white light that defied every expectation of the research team. Elena Rodriguez watched in stunned silence as entire city blocks came alive simultaneously, as if awakening from a deep, centuries-long slumber. Holographic interfaces burst from terminals that moments ago appeared completely dead. Complex data streams danced across multiple wavelengths, displaying information in patterns that challenged the very foundations of the researchers' understanding of computational systems. Dr. Kai Shen's advanced scanning equipment went into complete chaos. Quantum encrypted data streams overloaded his primary console, creating a symphony of light and information that seemed to breathe with an almost organic intelligence. "This is impossible," he muttered, his academic composure crumbling in the face of the inexplicable. Zara's nebulan form compressed in absolute shock. Her sophisticated sensory systems, designed to analyze the most complex energy signatures in the known galaxy, began to malfunction. Translucent membranes rippled with pure, unadulterated confusion as the city's infrastructure recalibrated with a precision that seemed to mock their technological understanding. The Cretax research team's collective intelligence experienced something akin to panic. Their synchronized movements became erratic, compound eyes struggling to process the rapid transformation happening around them. Automated drones spun in complex patterns, their scanning systems overwhelmed by the sudden burst of activity. Automated systems began to recalibrate with a level of precision that blurred the line between technological infrastructure and living organism. Power grids that had appeared dead for generations hummed to life, creating intricate networks of energy that pulsed with an almost rhythmic breathing pattern. "Adaptive restoration protocols are activating," Elena whispered, her voice barely audible over the increasing technological symphony. Her handheld scanner displayed fragments of information. Complex architectural designs, technological blueprints, and preservation strategies that suggested a level of forward thinking far beyond current scientific understanding. The city's structures began to shift subtly. Carbon composite walls seemed to realign themselves. Power conduits were routing with a fluidity that suggested something more than simple mechanical adjustment. It was as if the entire settlement was a massive, living organism slowly stretching after a prolonged period of hibernation. Dr. Chen's holographic displays exploded with information. Layers of encrypted data began to decode themselves, revealing glimpses of a preservation strategy so complex that it challenged everything the research team understood about colonial infrastructure. "The entire settlement is a single, integrated system," he announced, his voice a mixture of scientific excitement and growing terror. "It's not just preserving itself, it's actively reconstructing and adapting." Zara's typically dismissive attitude completely collapsed. "This is beyond any technological model in our databases," she muttered, her gaseous form showing signs of genuine emotional response. The Nebulan researchers' sensors detected layers of technological complexity that seemed to evolve in real time. The Kree drones began to document the transformation, their collective intelligence working overtime to process the unprecedented event. Holographic reconstructions formed and reformed, unable to keep up with the rapidly changing environment. Entire city blocks came alive with soft, pulsing illumination. What had appeared to be decaying infrastructure now revealed itself as a sophisticated, adaptive system. Power grids that should have been long dead now hummed with a vibrant energy that seemed to breathe with an almost organic intelligence. Elena discovered fragments of information that hinted at a profound truth. The settlement wasn't just a colonial outpost. It was a sophisticated preservation mechanism designed to survive and adapt under the most extreme conditions. Each decoded fragment suggested a level of technological foresight that was almost incomprehensible. The research team watched in stunned silence as the city continued to transform. Automated systems moved with a precision that suggested something more than programmed responses. It was as if the entire settlement was a living, thinking entity that had been waiting, preparing for this moment. "We're not just observing an archaeological site," Dr. Chen said quietly, his voice filled with a mixture of terror and profound scientific curiosity. "We're witnessing the awakening of something extraordinary." As the last of the city's systems came online, the research team realized that everything they thought they knew about human colonial expansion was about to be fundamentally challenged. The lights continued to pulse, a beacon of potential, a warning, and a promise of something far beyond their current understanding. A melodic voice emerged from the holographic systems, its tones a perfect blend of synthesized clarity and organic warmth. The AI's communication began with a comprehensive introduction that immediately shattered every preconception the research team held about human colonial strategies. "Preservation protocol activated," the AI announced. "Adaptive restoration sequence initiating primary communication protocols." Elena Rodriguez stood transfixed as layers of encrypted historical data began to unfold. The holographic displays revealed a breathtaking contingency plan that went far beyond any standard colonial expansion strategy. This was not merely a settlement, it was a sophisticated time capsule designed to preserve human culture and technological knowledge through extreme galactic instability. Dr. Kai Chen's hands moved frantically across his scanning interfaces, attempting to capture every microscopic detail of the unfolding revelation. "This is unprecedented," he muttered, his academic composure giving way to pure scientific excitement. The AI explained the core of its existence, a comprehensive preservation system developed during a period of massive galactic conflict. Human pioneers had created a network of settlements that could survive, adapt, and potentially rebuild civilization under the most extreme circumstances. Each colony was a carefully designed seed of potential, capable of maintaining cultural and technological knowledge for centuries. Zara's Nebulan form compressed in absolute disbelief. Her sophisticated sensory systems struggled to process the complexity of the information being revealed. The dismissive attitude she had maintained throughout the expedition completely dissolved, replaced by a growing sense of profound respect. "The settlement is more than an infrastructure," the AI continued. "It is a living repository of human potential. Adaptive genetic archives, technological blueprints, cultural memory, all preserved and capable of reconstruction." The Kree research team's collective intelligence worked overtime, their compound eyes capturing every microscopic detail of the holographic presentations. Synchronized clicks and chirps suggested a growing sense of awe that transcended their typical scientific detachment. Elena discovered the most extraordinary revelation buried within the data streams. The preservation strategy involved multiple layers of adaptive technology. Genetic archives could not only preserve human biological information, but could potentially reconstruct entire population structures if necessary. Technological blueprints were designed to adapt to changing galactic conditions, ensuring human knowledge could survive even the most catastrophic scenarios. Dr. Chen's analysis revealed the true genius of the strategy. They didn't just create a backup, he explained, his voice filled with a mixture of excitement and profound respect. They created a living system capable of evolving, of responding to completely unknown future conditions. The AI began to reveal the broader context of its creation. During a period of massive interstellar conflict, human pioneers had developed a radical approach to species preservation. Instead of traditional colonial expansion, they created a network of sophisticated settlement nodes, each capable of surviving independently, each a potential seed for human civilization's rebirth. Zara's sensors detected layers of technological complexity that seemed to defy conventional understanding. The preservation protocols included not just technological and genetic information, but comprehensive cultural archives. Music, art, scientific knowledge, philosophical concepts. Everything that defined human civilization was carefully encoded and preserved. Adaptive restoration requires careful integration, the AI explained. Current environmental conditions will be analyzed. Reconstruction protocols will minimize potential disruption to existing galactic ecosystems. The Cretax researchers found themselves documenting a level of technological sophistication that challenged their entire understanding of colonial expansion. The human strategy was not about conquest or immediate expansion. It was about survival, about creating the potential for future renewal. Elena realized they were witnessing something extraordinary. The human colony was not just a settlement. It was a sophisticated living system designed to preserve and potentially resurrect an entire civilization. Each microscopic detail suggested a level of forward thinking that was almost incomprehensible. Preliminary integration assessment complete, the AI announced. Research team recognized. Initial communication protocols establishing. The research team watched in stunned silence as the full scope of human potential began to unfold. What had begun as a routine archaeological expedition had transformed into a profound lesson about the nature of survival, adaptation, and hope. The holographic displays continued to pulse with soft, rhythmic light, a beacon of potential, a testament to human ingenuity, and a promise of extraordinary possibilities yet to be understood. The moment the research team attempted to process their previous discoveries, the colony's defensive systems activated with surgical precision. What had seemed like an archaeological site transformed into a living, breathing technological ecosystem prepared for any potential threat. Automated drones emerged from hidden compartments throughout the settlement. Their movement displayed a level of tactical coordination that seemed almost sentient. Each drone moved with a calculated grace that suggested something far more sophisticated than standard defensive programming. Elena Rodriguez watched in a mixture of scientific fascination and growing tension. Her environmental suit's sensors began to malfunction, overwhelmed by the complex energy signatures emanating from the defensive systems. The drones moved in intricate patterns, creating a three-dimensional defensive matrix that seemed to anticipate movement before it happened. Dr. Kai Chen's communication systems went completely dark. Quantum encrypted barriers formed around the research team, not as a hostile action, but as a precise containment protocol. "It's isolating us," he muttered, but not as a threat. More like a containment procedure. Zara's Nebulan sensory systems went into complete overload. Her gaseous form compressed and expanded rapidly, translucent membranes rippling with a mixture of terror and scientific excitement. The energy shields that materialized around them defied every known principle of defensive technology. The Cretax research team found their most advanced technological systems completely neutralized. Compound eyes shifted in confusion as their scanning equipment became nothing more than decorative accessories. Their collective intelligence, typically a model of technological supremacy, discovered its limitations. Energy shields rippled into existence with a soft, blue-white luminescence. These were not simple barriers but adaptive systems that seemed to analyze and respond to potential threat vectors in real time. Each shield adjusted its molecular density, electromagnetic properties, and energy absorption capabilities faster than any known defensive technology could process. Defensive protocol is adaptive. The settlement's AI announced through residual communication channels. Minimal interference with research team. Standard safety protocols engaging. Alina discovered something extraordinary in the defensive system's initial response. Instead of a standard aggressive containment, the colony systems were carefully managing the research team's access. Certain areas were gently redirected, information flows controlled with surgical precision. Dr. Chen's holographic interfaces began to display fragments of the defensive strategy. It was a comprehensive system that went far beyond simple protection. The defensive protocols were designed to assess, analyze, and respond to potential threats with a level of intelligence that blurred the line between technological system and living organism. The Cretax drones that had been deployed earlier found themselves carefully guided away from sensitive areas. Invisible energy currents redirected their movement, not through force, but through a sophisticated manipulation of their sensory inputs. Zara's dismissive attitude completely dissolved. "This is beyond any defensive model in our collective databases," she muttered, her gaseous form showing genuine signs of respect. The Nebulan researchers' advanced sensors detected layers of technological complexity that seemed to evolve in real time. Automated weapon systems emerged from seemingly impossible locations. They were not traditional weapons, but sophisticated adaptive interfaces capable of neutralizing potential threats through multiple layers of technological intervention. Energy dissipation fields, molecular reconfiguration systems, and quantum interference patterns formed a comprehensive defensive ecosystem. "Threat assessment complete," the AI announced. Research team classified as non-hostile. Observational protocols activated. Alina realized they were witnessing something extraordinary. The defensive systems were not just protecting the settlement. They were carefully managing the research team's interaction with the site. Every movement, every scan, every attempt to gather information was being precisely controlled. The Cretax Collective found their most advanced scanning technologies completely overwhelmed. Compound eyes shifted in confusion as complex energy patterns danced around them, revealing just enough to maintain scientific curiosity while protecting the settlement's deeper secrets. Dr. Chen's analysis revealed the true genius of the defensive strategy. "It's not just protecting," he explained, his voice filled with a mixture of excitement and profound respect. "It's carefully managing our entire interaction with the site." As the defensive systems continued their intricate dance, the research team realized they were no longer in control. The human settlement had transformed from an archaeological site into a living, breathing entity capable of managing its own exposure to external forces. The soft, pulsing energy shields continued to shimmer, a testament to human technological ingenuity, a warning, and a promise of extraordinary capabilities yet to be understood. A holographic representation materialized at the center of the research team's containment zone. The figure was neither fully human nor entirely digital, a shimmering projection that seemed to embody the complex nature of the human settlement's preservation system. Comprehensive historical context initiating, the representation announced, its voice a melodic blend of scientific precision and emotional depth. Alina Rodriguez stood transfixed as layers of human history began to unfold. The holographic display revealed a narrative of survival that challenged every preconception the alien researchers had about human civilization. Generations of genetic engineering, artificial intelligence development, and adaptive technologies had created a species capable of surviving and reimagining itself under the most extreme conditions. Dr. Kai Chen's analysis systems worked overtime, capturing every microscopic detail of the unfolding revelation. "This is beyond any colonial expansion model," he muttered, his academic composure giving way to pure scientific awe. The holographic representation began to explain the true nature of human survival strategies. During a period of massive galactic conflict, human pioneers had developed a radical approach to species preservation. Instead of traditional survival methods, they created a network of sophisticated settlement nodes, each a potential seed for civilization's rebirth. Zara's nebulan form compressed in absolute disbelief. Her sophisticated sensory systems struggled to process the complexity of the information being revealed. The dismissive attitude she had maintained throughout the expedition completely dissolved, replaced by a growing sense of profound respect. Adaptive restoration is not just a technological process, the holographic representation explained. It is a comprehensive approach to species survival that integrates biological, technological, and cultural preservation. The Cretax research team's collective intelligence worked in overdrive. Compound eyes captured every detail of the presentation, their synchronized clicks and chirps suggesting a growing sense of awe that transcended their typical scientific detachment. Alina discovered the most extraordinary revelations buried within the data streams. The preservation strategy involved multiple layers of adaptive technology that went far beyond simple genetic or technological archiving. These were living systems capable of reconstructing entire cultural ecosystems, of adapting to completely unknown future conditions. Genetic archives demonstrated capabilities that seemed almost miraculous. Not only could the system preserve human biological information, but it could potentially reconstruct entire population structures. Advanced biotechnological interfaces could adapt human physiology to entirely new environmental conditions, ensuring survival under circumstances that would destroy most known species. Each settlement node is more than a backup. The holographic representation continued. They are potential starting points for human civilization, fully capable of reconstructing technological, biological, and cultural systems from minimal initial resources. Dr. Chen's analysis revealed the true genius of the strategy. They didn't just create a backup, he explained, his voice filled with a mixture of excitement and profound respect. They created a living, breathing potential for human renewal. The Cretax researchers found themselves documenting a level of technological sophistication that completely challenged their understanding of colonial expansion. The human strategy was not about immediate survival or conquest. It was about creating potential, about ensuring the possibility of renewal under any conceivable circumstances. Zara's sensors detected layers of technological and biological complexity that seemed to defy conventional understanding. The preservation protocols included comprehensive archives of human knowledge, scientific discoveries, artistic expressions, philosophical concepts, cultural traditions. Everything that defined human civilization was carefully encoded and preserved. Adaptive potential is our greatest strength, the holographic representation announced. Survival is not about resistance. It is about the ability to understand, to adapt, to reimagine. Alina realized they were witnessing something extraordinary. The human settlement was not just a technological marvel. It was a living testament to the potential of human imagination. Each microscopic detail suggested a level of forward thinking that was almost incomprehensible. The Cretax collective found their understanding of biological and technological development fundamentally challenged. What they had considered a simple colonial outpost was actually a sophisticated living system designed to preserve and potentially resurrect an entire civilization. Preliminary integration assessment complete. The holographic representation concluded. Potential for future interaction. Optimal. The research team watched in stunned silence as the full scope of human potential continued to unfold. What had begun as a routine archaeological expedition had transformed into a profound lesson about survival, adaptation, and the extraordinary potential of a species often underestimated by the galactic community. The holographic display continued to pulse with soft, rhythmic light, a beacon of hope, a testament to human ingenuity, and a promise of extraordinary possibilities yet to be understood. The final moments of the research expedition defied every expectation of first contact protocols. What had begun as a routine archaeological survey had transformed into the most profound encounter in recent galactic history. Elena Rodriguez stood at the center of a rapidly evolving situation. The human settlement systems had effectively turned the research team from external observers into carefully managed participants. Communication channels opened with a precision that suggested both caution and profound curiosity. Dr. Kai Chen's analytical systems worked overtime, documenting every microscopic detail of the interaction. "We're not just being studied," he muttered. "We're being evaluated." The Cretax research team found their collective intelligence completely recalibrated by the encounter. Compound eyes that had once looked down on human colonial efforts now viewed the settlement with a mixture of respect and genuine scientific fascination. Zara's nebulan form pulsed with a complexity of emotions rarely seen in her species. Her previous dismissive attitude had completely dissolved, replaced by a profound sense of humility. The sophisticated sensory systems that had once mocked human technology now worked to comprehend its true depth. Preliminary interspecies communication protocols initiated. The settlement's AI announced. Its holographic representation shifted, adapting to create the most comfortable communication interface for each member of the research team. The alien researchers became unexpected guests of the awakened system. Information would be exchanged, knowledge would be shared, but on terms carefully defined by the human settlement's preservation protocols. It was not a hostile action, but a measured, precise interaction designed to protect both the settlement and the research team. Elena discovered the most extraordinary aspect of the interaction. The settlement was not just preserving human knowledge, it was actively seeking to understand the galactic community that had developed during its period of hibernation. Each communication channel was a carefully designed bridge between a preserved human civilization and the current galactic society. Dr. Chen's analysis revealed the true brilliance of the communication strategy. "They're not just sharing information," he explained, his voice filled with a mixture of excitement and profound respect. "They're carefully assessing our potential for future interaction." The Cretax researchers found themselves subjected to a comprehensive but non-invasive evaluation. Their technological systems, cultural databases, and collective intelligence were analyzed with a level of sophistication that completely redefined their understanding of first contact. Zara's sensors detected layers of communication complexity that seemed to defy conventional understanding. The settlement systems were not just sharing information. They were creating a comprehensive framework for potential future cooperation. Interspecies potential assessment. Preliminary positive alignment detected, the AI announced. Each word was carefully chosen, each communication channel precisely calibrated to minimize misunderstanding. The research team realized they were witnessing something extraordinary. This was not a simple archaeological discovery. This was the potential reemergence of a human civilization that had prepared for centuries to rebuild, to understand, to integrate. Holographic displays began to show glimpses of human cultural archives, scientific discoveries, artistic expressions, philosophical concepts, all carefully preserved and now cautiously shared. It was an invitation, not an invasion. The Cretax Collective found their understanding of biological and technological development fundamentally challenged. What they had considered a simple colonial outpost was actually a sophisticated living system designed to preserve and potentially reintegrate an entire civilization. Comprehensive preservation protocol includes adaptive social integration strategies. The AI continued. Potential for cooperative development. Significant. Elena Rodriguez understood the true significance of the moment. This was more than a first contact scenario. This was the potential rebirth of a human civilization that had prepared for centuries to survive, to adapt, to understand. Dr. Chen's final analysis captured the essence of the encounter. "They didn't just survive," he said quietly. "They prepared to thrive." The research team prepared to depart, each member fundamentally changed by the encounter. The human settlement would continue its careful awakening, its adaptive systems slowly integrating with the current galactic community. As their research vessel prepared to leave the planet, a final holographic message pulsed across their communication systems. It was neither a warning nor a welcome. It was a promise of potential, a future understanding of extraordinary possibilities yet to be explored. The lights of the human colony continued to pulse, a beacon of hope, a testament to human resilience, and a reminder that true potential knows no boundaries of time or space.